Well, guys, that one video has been making the rounds again on social media, and if you don't know what that video is, well, I'm about to show you. And I should say, trigger warning: this might disturb some of you, so don't say I didn't warn you. Uh, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, and I'm cringing so hard my back almost broke. God, that was painful to watch. I've covered it on this channel before. Running water over your cigars. Now, I will say this because obviously I could kind of dive into my own personal opinions and thoughts and really just common sense when it comes to cigars about why this is a bad idea and why you should never do this, at least not like that. But then again, I don't know, but that makes me want to cry and throw up at the same time. Yeah, I guess the question might be, is it ever okay to run or pour water over your cigars? The answer is clearer for some of us than it is for others. But yeah, let's just kind of take a few minutes to examine that and try not to cry. Cue music. What's up, guys? You are watching Dad Smoking Cigars, sponsored by StogieLives.com and Casa Cuevas Cigars. From our Casa to yours. Thank you for joining me for another Friday video. Now, I don't know if any of you have actually seen that video that I just showed you, and again, sorry if I triggered any of you. I think that video in particular, I don't know where it came from or who shot it or what was really going on there. I kind of hope it was a gag or something like that, not an actual situation that occurred, because if it did, it gives me just the chills thinking about it. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. Like the thought of like taking the cigars in my humidor, you know, maybe they're a little dry. The wrappers, some of the wrappers are cracking a little bit. You know, they're not staying as humidified as I would like. The thought of taking all of them, or even some of them, into my house and putting them in like a sieve or colander thing and running water over them I know it seems like I'm being dramatic, but the thought of it just makes me sad. The thought of doing that. I'm not gonna do that, because I just need to like figure out a better way to humidify and reseason my humidor, because that is the best solution in my opinion, and not just my opinion, but the opinion of a lot of other people. Now, we've all seen the videos of what to do if your cigars are drying out. Basically, you need to put them, like, say you have a larger humidor like mine, Winador, or just a big humidor cabinet, whatever you got. If it takes hundreds of cigars or more, then you might want to take them and put them in like smaller humidors. First, you season the humidors by wiping a little distilled water over all on the cedar, and then you put like either a humidifier packet or a small little cup or bowl of distilled water. You put the cigars in there, you close it up, you leave it closed, and it can take up to a couple of weeks for the cigars to be properly rehydrated. We've seen the videos, we've watched the tutorials, we've read the articles. We know that tends to be the standard way to rehydrate your cigars. But running water? Well, as it turns out, there's like a few places, and I wouldn't call them legit places, but they are places where seasoned cigar smokers, new and old alike, are talking about it. And then there was this one place that I went to, and it was a website called friendsofhabanos.com, and I'll try to leave the link of the conversation, because it was from about 4 years ago, so about 2018, and like they're talking about like running a little lukewarm water, and this particularly on aged cigars. Now when I say aged cigars, I mean cigars that are anywhere from 20 to 30 years old. Apparently this is something that is done, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. The title of it's a thread. It says running aged cigars under tap water before smoking, ? Obviously somebody is curious as to whether or not this is a good idea, and personally, I don't know. I don't really own any aged cigars. I don't think any of the cigars that I have in my humidor are older than maybe anywhere from 3 to 4 years old, judging, and if you estimate how long they rested in the factory before they were actually put out to market and before they were purchased. I have no idea how long these cigars were aged and resting before I got them. Some of my cigars just alone have, in my humidor have rested and chilled for about 2 years, or maybe a little longer. But I don't know if this is a thing. Apparently it's kind of a thing. And throughout the thread, I saw a lot of people saying like, well, I don't know. I've smoking cigars for years. I've never heard about this. Sounds like a dumb idea to me. Particularly thinking about aged cigars. Let's say you bought, those of us who have been smoking cigars for a really long time, as long as I've been alive, and I'm almost 38. So, let's just consider that. You bought some cigars in the late 80s, early 90s, something like that, or maybe even before that, and they have just been aging and resting and part of your collection for quite some time. The guy who first posted, I think, the question, he's talking about how he got some Punch DCs from 1987, and well, I guess that was the years that he was born, so he somehow got his hands on some cigars that came out the year he was born, and he wanted to save them for a special occasion. And a gentleman in a video that he watched, and I'll try to provide the link for that as well, said that he has an extensive catalog of aged cigars, and for some reason he will run the cigar under the tap before smoking it. And I did watch one video prior to shooting this one, and the gentleman's had the same thing, that it was time tested and it worked, and how it would just kind of like, because the wrappers of these older cigars, these vintage or aged cigars, tend to kind of dry out a bit even if they've been stored properly. And he just runs them under the tap, like lukewarm under the tap, for like 5 or 6 seconds before he smokes them, and that way there's no issues, and the wrapper doesn't I guess they're really delicate prior, and after that they're not as delicate. I don't watching it makes me cringe a lot. And so just out of curiosity, I kept looking up different instances of this, not like newer cigars, but apparently it's vintage and aged cigars that you can do this, and it turns out okay if you do it right, whatever the hell that means. And yeah, it's weird. I didn't know that this was something that was actually done, not born out of stupidity. I know that's kind of harsh, but I refer back to the video I put into the video I showed you, the beginning of this one. I refer back to that. Now, obviously, that is an extreme instance of this thing. And I don't think the most intelligent cigar smokers would ever do that. And hopefully you don't know someone who maybe was trying to do a nice thing for you, whether a spouse or a friend, and they saw your cigars were drying out and they look at it, it's like, no, hopefully you don't have anybody in your life that would do something that horrible. But yeah, I'm starting to discover, and this is like a little bit dated information, but apparently it's a thing. It's something people do, and it's from my vantage point, it's strange and it's weird. I don't think I like it, but I don't know. Apparently, yeah, I don't know. And then there were some people who likes it, you know, kind of almost along the lines of, well, if you're gonna do something that stupid, at least use distilled water, because I mean, all of us know that distilled water, like if you have a Cigar Oasis or some other humidifying device that will help regulate the humidity in your humidor, you use distilled water. If you got like the humidifying beads, you put the distilled water in it, expands the beads and keeps the humidity, you know, the relative humidity where you want it to be in your humidor. I have a Cigar Oasis, which is essentially a small electric unit that has a sponge on the bottom, and you fill that sponge with distilled water, and then you dump the excess, you let it set, you put the electrical unit on top and plug it in, and you put it in your humidor, and you just set the relative humidity level where you want it to be. And if you're able to, you know, make sure you're on top of it, your cigars shouldn't dry out. But then again, I don't have vintage cigars in my humidor, so I still don't know if this is a thing. Some people suggest it's like, well, you don't want to use tap if you're gonna do that because of the fluoride and the various other minerals and elements in the water that can completely screw with the cigar, the wrapper, the flavor, blah, 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 blah. So I'm actually kind of amazed to discover that this isn't some kind of joke, something that people make fun of, but it actually is something that is done. And I still don't know how I feel about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. My personal opinion is, do not do this. I mean, just from what I've learned about cigars, how I've been educated about cigars, the information I've been given and how to properly store and care for them so you can enjoy them, tells me that even if you have like some old vintage cigars, let's just say there's some old Cubans in there, and you want to make sure they stay fresh, all I can say is make sure you're storing them properly wherever you put them, so that way you don't have to consider this crazy idea of running it under the tap, or even like pouring a little distilled water over it. I don't know, it just, you know, from what I understand, I guess like the wrappers can be dried out even if the binder and wrapper are properly, you know, moistened, and it can burn up too fast and crack and ruin the cigar. You know, even taking that into consideration, I just, you know, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that? What do you guys know about this? Have you heard anything about this other than the jokes, the gags, and the things that people poke fun of on social media? I really want to know. Let me know in the comments below. But again, all I can say in terms of advice or suggestion, don't do that. Don't do this. I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe there's a small percentage of cigar smokers who would say this is a good idea. I mean, even if we're talking about vintage cigars, let's just say it's just vintage. I still don't think I would do that, because you might just ruin a vintage cigar that you bought years ago, or that was rolled years ago and you got your hands on it, and you end up damaging or ruining it, and when you smoke it, it's just an absolute disappointment. And that would be a lot of time, aging, and just resting, and just all that effort put in that cigar and all those years passed to have a bad experience. But, you know, that's my opinion, and you can take it or leave it. That's usually how it works. But as I said before, guys, I really would like to know your thoughts on this subject in particular. Let me know in the comments below, or in the live chat if you're watching the premiere. I really want to know what you think, and yeah, this should be, I'm hoping this kind of becomes a lively discussion. In any case, guys, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me for this Friday edition of Dad Smoking Cigars. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys are all doing well. Be sure to like this video, share it if you think somebody might enjoy it, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But that's it for me, guys. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning into this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and also follow Dad Smoking Cigars on dads_smoking_cigars on Instagram, and be sure to check us out on Facebook. Until then, guys, stay smoky, and I'll see you in the next one.